Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of world-ish music pairing Western and non-Western influences into single songs. Today we're going to be checking out the band Dead Can Dance with the track Rakim Live. This is the remastered version of it. Let's dive in and see what they're bringing to the table. Transporting me somewhere else right off the bat. Oh! Not where I was expecting to go, but I'm here for it. Let's see this. I think that opening bit, or opening minute and a half, give or take, was free time. There's a lot of fluctuation of phrasing, which indicates that, but here we have a very solid beat to follow, and you notice that we don't have any more of the squashing and stretching of that main rhythm. Call and response between the vocals and, I don't know, some sort of plucked string. I like some of the sparse percussion around here. There's this wood block that's it only shows up for beat 2 and 3 of every other bar. Adds a little personality without overcrowding. We got a drone going on too. language shift. I think it's interesting too that you can feel this in two different speeds. Yeah. All right. Interesting track. Primarily does one thing underneath, and that is to create a specific atmosphere with mostly a rhythmic idea. Lots of percussion going on in here. We have our melody and our lead vocals and a drone, and that takes us through the first 3-4 minutes of this track. We hit a B section that is actually just a variation on that, coming into our final 2.5 minutes of the track, where the drone takes on a moving idea. It works with octaves, so we don't actually have a chord here. It's still just a single note, but it changes every, depending on how you count it, 2 bars. 2 bars of holding a tone, 2 bars of holding a tone, 2 bars of holding a tone. And I say whichever way you count it because I can feel this both in a single time signature and half of that time signature. Sorry, a single tempo and half of that tempo. And it really depends on whether you key yourself into some of the more moving parts like the tambourine and the female backing vocals there at the end, or if you key yourself into some of the slower moving parts like the wood blocks or the male vocals, especially in the latter half of the track when we shifted to the English lyrics. It's very easy to feel this in both a faster tempo or a slower one, both of them being perfectly doubled or halved of the other. So I don't know which one is the intended vibe here. It almost feels at times that it shifts depending on what's in focus. Almost like the song has that same squashing and stretching idea that we heard in the intro during the free time moment. But yeah, I've deviated a bit here. Our A prime or B section, whatever you want to call it, takes many of the same ideas that we had in our A section. We just take that drone and we give it a moving idea, holding out longer tones but shifting in pitch and putting an octave harmony on it. And then we get the call and response in the vocals, where originally we had the call and response in the vocals and the plucked string instrument. I still don't know what that is. Here we trade off the male vocals to the female vocals. We still have a call and response though. Again, a minor variation on something we've already done. It doesn't change things up too drastically, but just enough to create a new vibe, new feeling here. I guess not necessarily a new feeling, because the two sections are very similar, but a differentiation. We can say this is a different section than this one. The key, I think, here is really the foundation, which is going to be the drone slash progression that we hear at the end, mixed with the percussion layering, the rhythmic layering. We have a few instruments that are consistent and constant, like our tambourine, that is just consistently pushing forward with a rigid rhythmic pattern and creating accented hits here and there to create a sense of pulse within the rigidity of the consistency of it. But then we also have stuff like I mentioned, the wood blocks over on the left. And depending again on how you're counting it, it's either beats 2 and 3 of every other bar, or it is 2 and the end of 2 of every bar. Again, just depends on how you're counting it. But yeah, it's we have both of those. We also have like a hand drum we heard primarily during the intro of the track, just kind of one single tone, faster playing, sometimes slowing down. We kind of lost that once we got into the song proper. We moved away from the free time to the strict tempo. It cropped up every now and then, but I don't particularly remember what it was doing. I just remember hearing the timbre of it. But the end result is that we have like 3 or 4 percussion instruments that create this layering here that creates a very rich rhythmic presence in the song. And it's really what dictates a lot of what's going on here. Because, like I mentioned, for our A section, aside from that, we have a drone, just one note, and then the vocals on top giving us a melody. It really is, at least to me, the percussion that keeps the song moving forward. Now, I mentioned there is something on top of that. That's our vocal melody and our counter melody, our call and response, whatever you want to call it. In our first section, it is the plucked string instrument. In our second section, it's the female vocal melody. What's interesting is that the male vocalist tends to be a bit more, I don't want to say lethargic, but slower moving with their melody. They tend to hold out more notes, and what counters them, the response to their call, is always faster, whether it is the eighth note plucking of the string instrument or the quick runs that we get out of the female vocals. And so, once again, I kind of alluded to this earlier already, but we have this squashing and stretching that is very reflective of what we heard in our intro, where the plucked string instrument was very free to change how fast they were plucking or strumming their melody line. The whole song sort of has this squashing and stretching feeling to it where, any moment the speed of the song can just drastically change, and we even saw this in our outro with the constant retardando throughout this section. I think we even had an immediate tempo change once we got rid of the percussion. It felt like we slowed down, and the more I tried to count it, the more I couldn't. Either it is free time once again, or there are extended fermatas at the end of every other bar. But eventually, with the vocals constantly singing, we can actually feel the retardando in the final couple of bars and feel the song slowing down naturally. It is time is very important here. I'm curious why. I don't know if there are folk elements that they're pulling from where time is significant, or if maybe it's something specific to the song that they want time to be a significant component to. And the reason I bring folk up is because it does feel like there's a lot of um, cultural relevance to the track. I'm not sure what specific culture they're pulling from. It has a general Middle Eastern vibe to it, but I'm not sure what specific Middle Eastern culture they are utilizing folk music from. It could even not just be the music, but I know with a few Middle Eastern cultures that the music is closely tied to religious events or cultural events or anything like that. And um, oh man, it has been way too long since I've studied world music, but I think it's Indian music with the ragas. That's what the closest analogy we would have to chords is the raga, and the specific ragas are actually used for specific events or specific dances or specific rituals, things to do with their religion and the culture. You don't just pick it because you want a sad, a sad or a happy chord. You pick this, or a key, actually, I think is the more is the closer um, connection there. You don't just pick it because you want this specific sound, you pick it because it's the event that you're doing. So it might actually be more so than just pulling from the culture's music for influence here, but also pulling from specific aspects of the culture outside of the music, such as activities or events or religious components as well. Again, I don't know what specific culture they're utilizing here, what folk aspects they're borrowing from. But, I'm curious if that time has anything to do with the purpose of the song, whether within the context of the track, maybe the lyrical themes, or even externally from the track, some other aspect of the culture being pulled into the song itself. But yeah, that's something that I definitely have a weak area in my knowledge is basically non-Western music. I have a little bit of a knowledge there, but overall, I don't understand. Well, I don't have the knowledge of. I haven't learned of it as much as I've learned about Western music. So, if anybody wants to clue me in there, give me a place to start, doing a little bit of research onto this, please let me know. Like I said, I can't even identify what region or culture this is directly influencing or borrowing from. So definitely a place that I could be educated on quite a bit here. Um, I think that's about it then, huh? I am curious going into the lyrics about the differentiation between the non-English lyrics and the shift to the English lyrics. Again, I don't know what language it is, so I'm not gonna try to name a specific one. It kind of sucks. I have to call it the non-English one, but that's the extent of my knowledge on it. I'm curious why we switched. If there is a purpose within the lyrics, if there's a purpose without the lyrics. It actually surprised me because we had a lot of really neat ideas that lent itself to sort of this Middle Eastern idea. Once again, sorry, the Middle East idea, not Middle Eastern. The Middle East, yeah, Middle East. I don't know why that. Anyways, to that sound, and then we brought in a language type that sounds like it would fit in with it. And out of nowhere, we shift to English. And it caught me off guard. But I also noticed that it was only the male vocalist, not the secondary vocals that we had doing the call and response on them. So I'm curious about that. I think that's the only thing that I'm wondering about besides the time thing going into the lyrics. So I guess without further ado, let's hit them. Alright, so the lyrics were quite vague. I decided to take a bit of time to do a bit of research. I found out that Dead Can Dance is a duo of Lisa Gerrard and Brendan Perry. They are, it's an Australian musical project formed in '81 in Melbourne, and they typically construct soundscapes of mesmerizing grandeur and solemn beauty, usually pairing African polyrhythms, Gaelic folk, Gregorian chant, and Middle Eastern mantras with rock arts. Sorry, art rock. Yeah, I mean, I can. This one definitely had more of the Middle Eastern vibe. Art rock, though? I don't. Well, maybe they don't pair them all together in the same song. Maybe this is their Middle Eastern mantra track, which actually I think fits well as a general description of it. Merging with, I could even say merging a little bit with just general rock. Art rock, I guess, fits it just in the structure of the track, specifically our B section, with the way that the vocal phrasings are. Interestingly, there are no translations for the first set of lyrics or the female vocal lyrics, Lisa Gerrard's lyrics, in our second section. So I did a little bit of searching into this, and it seems that Lisa Gerrard's vocals are, as usual, in her own nonverbal language. Okay, so she's just making sounds. It states also that Brendan Perry also contributes vocals in an indeterminate language here, but that is unusual for the group. So, most of this is just gibberish, meant to evoke a sound. I did mention that they kind of had a Middle Eastern flair to it. I don't know if that's just because I don't have a lot of experience with that sound, or if it's because they were evoking a gibberish that they felt sounded like that, and to my untrained ears also sound like it could fit as well. Um, in which case, is that stereotyping? Is that racist? I don't know. I believe it could probably border on it, but kind of like what we checked out this weekend with Electric Light Orchestra, specifically their track Jungle. It's a different time. Does that make it not wrong? No. But things were acceptable then. That probably wouldn't be now. And again, I'm curious if this is just me as well. When anybody else listens to this, does it sound like stereotypical Middle Eastern languages in that section to them, or does it sound like gibberish? Is this just my biases playing into this? That's always something I have to question as well. I can't speak for everyone when I talk about stuff like this. However, when we get to the English lyrics, it says, "Favored son, turn in the garden, shades of one, sins forgiven. Favored signs to find hope in the rounds of life, favored rhymes to find hope in the sands of life. Favored son, fence in your heart, savored son, sins forgotten." I don't quite know what any of this is about, which is why I had to go look some things up. Sonic Hits, no. Genius says that Rakim appears in Islamic lore as a guardian dog at the Cave of the Seven Sleepers, a medieval legend about early Christians who hid in a cave, then emerged centuries later. The legend is included in a John Donne poem, The Good Morrow. Says the title appears consistent with the music, which may perhaps evoke a desert environment such as North Africa or Syria. It does speak specifically about sands, but we also have the visualization of a garden. And without knowing much about the lore behind Rakim, I can't really speak too much about this. The 12 lines here don't really say much to me, other than being a bit cryptic and possibly profound. So I don't have much to add on to this. Just wanted to give some extra context for anybody else who was just as lost with the music as I was, or had questions about the music's intentions, like I did. We're gonna wrap this up. Unfortunately, I couldn't add much to it outside of just speaking about some general concepts that they were utilizing in the music that I found interesting, but those are my thoughts on Dead Can Dance's Rakim. Let me know yours. I had a lot of questions on this one, and I didn't have a lot of answers. So, this is a good experience for me to get educated a bit about this stuff, whether you know about Middle Eastern mantras or languages, or even just Dead Can Dance, Lisa Gerard, and Perry something. I don't remember. You guys know. Brendan Perry. Let me know about any of that. Down in the comments, also give me your thoughts, opinions, and perspectives down there as well. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. Takes you to this menu right here. You can find my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. We have a special section coming up next. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.